Hello, everybody. I am Todd, and this is...
I'm Amanda.
Yeah, and this is not really an episode of HUTV, but it is a special video piece we wanted to bring you. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, we had a really cool experience over the summer where we got to interview somebody that Todd's going to tell us more about. But, you know, it's not exactly industry related. However, it was mind-blowing.
We didn't want to make this a traditional episode because we talked to her for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
But it was just so interesting to talk to her that we thought, well, you know, we're going to make this its own thing unto itself. And it was great for me because I finally got to try out my Spanish.
Right.
I've been studying Spanish for quite a while now.
In the morning. Yep.
And this was my first chance to try it out with a native Spanish speaker. So she was very gracious enough to let me try that. So without any further delay, here's the interview. Okay, so thank you for being on the show. We really appreciate it. Let's start. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and about your company, Circulab Materia?
Yes. So my name is Aleesa. I'm from Guadalajara, and I studied international relations, and I got into this whole madness, first of all, because my parents were complete hippies. My mom is an intellectual, my dad is a doctor, but they're really focused on alternative living. And so I am really obsessed with fashion since I was very young. And I don't know, I was just really into it. And then I started reading about the sustainability side of fashion. And then I realized back in university that it was the second most polluted industry in the world. And I was like, okay, I cannot be so obsessed into this industry if it's just such a polluting. So I just started researching more, and then I did my thesis in the environmental consequences of the fashion industry, and that's when everything got started. I went to Europe to study, and then I went to the Netherlands, and the Netherlands has as a mission, as a country, to be 100% circular by 2050. And so that's where I get to understand what the circular economy is, and that's how the company was created. So right now, and why it's just so urgent, and I have this drive, and that's why I'm like making things happen today, is because we are currently living in a linear economy where we extract, we produce, we use, and we dispose. Literally.
And we were looking on your company's website earlier, and there's a lot of talk on there about the circular economy. And so if I'm understanding it correctly, basically what the circular economy is, it's a way to limit waste, to reuse things instead of just, like you said, a linear economy where we get something, we use it, it goes away. Circular economy would be the opposite of that in a way?
Circular economy will be a complementing point of view where we eliminate the concept of waste, because waste doesn't exist. Everything is just a very valuable resource that needs to circulate. So that's why it circulates. So the purpose is to close the loop so we don't have no leaks, no waste, and then everything that is already extracted will come back into the supply chain, either by, depending if it's a biological resource, it will be composting, generating cool stuff, or if it's a synthetic or technical resource, it would just come back as a material into the supply chain. So that's how the company started. In Mexico, a German random girl saw a conference that I was giving in circular economy, and she called me to do a project with circular credits, which is a financial mechanism we use.
Okay. The program it's a State Department program called Young Leaders in the Americas, or Young Leaders in the Americas Initiative.
Yes,
right.
Young Leaders of the Americas Initiative.
Of the Americas, okay.
We are 280 young leaders of the Americas from Latin America and the Caribbean.
And how did that program bring you to Huntsville and to us here at Huntsville Utilities?
Well, they send us to a city in the U.S., and they say Huntsville is the coolest city to live in the U.S. currently. So they place me in Huntsville Utilities because I work with supply chain and, like, I guess, energy, electricity, water, gas. It just is part of the supply chain, and it's part of everything because every product needs water, electricity, gas to be produced. So right now I'm learning a lot about supply chain and resources I love it.
What are some of the things that you've experienced and learned being here at the company for the past month?
Okay, so I've been here a month, true, and I think the one thing that I really enjoy was being in the water department, because you guys are really, really lucky to have a department like that in Huntsville, because they have really good practices in the way they treat water and they see the resource and how to make it sustainable and circular. I think is very important. But also in general in the company, I've been in every area. So from finance, HR, operations, engineering, commercial, customer service. And I just hearing from all the stories and perspectives, I think that's very rich and diverse. And I think the outcome will be to be empathic with the fears, with the needs of everyone inside, not only in a company like Huntsville Utilities, but also just in real life, like just a company, a sector, an industry is like that. It has all these weird components that need to hang out in harmony and with empathy. So, yeah, I think that would be.
You mentioned at one point we were talking about the global responsibilities, and when it comes to the circular economy and waste and things like that. I think, and this is just me speaking with no formal training in that anywhere close to what you've had in this, but it seems to me like a lot of countries or a lot of people, we tend to live in a vacuum. And so we think, well, what happens here, what happens on the other side of the world, it doesn't affect me. It seems to me like, especially when it comes to this kind of thing, that's the kind of thinking we need to do away with, that we can't achieve this. It's not something that individual countries can achieve without the help of others. Am I understanding that correctly, you think?
I mean, yes, I think one of the reasons why we, for example, in Mexico, we are a little bit more thoughtful with our resources. It's like you guys are really lucky to have a bunch of water. You have the Tennessee River, you have all like background aquifers, but that doesn't mean that that's just gonna be forever there and that we shouldn't take care of that, right? So to be in a scarcity situation or a scarcity context, I think it makes you more aware of the issue and more responsible. And this is the thing, it's a shared responsibility. Countries, governments, private companies, citizens, consumers need to be involved in this to actually make better decisions and inform. And I think people are just confused and detached. And I think to be able to go and transcend and do this transition into more circular economy and just better lifestyle, you need to give up a certain level of comfort that most of the people in Western society is not willing to. So that I think that's just a matter of also diversity and just having perspective of how other countries are living and under which circumstances. So that will create empathy again. So I talk a lot about empathy because for me it's just one of the most valuable values.
And it's a value that I think we don't see as much as we used to as a society. Are there opportunities now for our two countries to work together on these projects? Is the relationship there? I mean, I don't think we're saying anything. I don't think we're telling any secrets here when we say the relationship between our two countries over the past few years, there's been some tension.
I think we have around 200 years of tension, I'll say.
Yeah, that's you're right. You're right. But is there an opportunity there?
Yes, definitely there is an opportunity. I think at least, for example, in Huntsville, being the best city to live in the U.S. at the moment, I think Huntsville should lead by example. International and national standards should be followed in terms of recycling, in terms of empowerment of society through communication. And I think Huntsville Utility has such a powerful channel through billing. So you bill people of your city.
Right.
So I think there is a great opportunity to let them know how can they be more efficient in their resources. Just embrace, not even recycling, because recycling is not the best solution. It's just better not to have to create the waste in the first place. but incentivizing these kind of companies for them to actually make profit, because it needs to be sustainable, but it needs to be sustainable economically, socially, and it needs to be sustainable for the environment. So I'll say Huntsville has a lot of opportunities to grow in that sense. And for our country, well, international cooperation between these two countries has been, how do you say, sour, sweet relationship? I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. Yeah,
I don't remember the phrase.
It's seen better days, I think, is a way to put it.
Yes, but I think we can learn so much from each other.
Sure.
And just work together.
That kind of leads me something that, and a lot of these are just things that I'm personally curious about. I've been to Mexico one time in my life, and it was around 7 or 8 years ago. It was my first time being there. It was fascinating, beautiful country. What do you think? You being considerably younger than, well, I don't want to say considerably younger than me, but younger than me, are there a lot of misconceptions on both sides of the border, as Mexicans towards Americans toward? Although, every time I talk about this subject with someone, I'm reminded of a professor I had in college who said it's not proper for people in the United States to refer to themselves as Americans and everybody else on the continent as Mexicans, Canadians, because we are all Americans. Because we all live on North America, South America, whatever the case may be. So I shouldn't have put it that way. But are there misconceptions between people who live in Mexico about people who live in the United States, and the United States? Of course, we all know there are misconceptions held by people in the United States about what life is like in Mexico. What are some things that you have noticed in your time?
I love the U.S. I've visited sometimes before. I sail, and I spent some time in the San Francisco Bay sailing as a very sustainable way of transportation. Mm-hmm. So I love the U.S., but to be honest, I feel really lucky to be Mexican and to live in Mexico, mostly because of the quality of life that we can have without necessarily having a lot of resources, economical resources. You can really have quality of life because of the food, because of all of this. And the perceptions, I think there is misperceptions in every place. And there are just some generalizations of who we are as Mexicans and who you are as people in the U.S. that sometimes they match the reality, sometimes not. So I would say, like you say, like the U.S. is a very wasteful country. Sure. And Mexico as well. You know, like we suffer from the same, we just frame different. So I don't know. I studied international relations, and I was just so tired of politics because it seems a little bit... I don't know if I should say this.
It's not live, so don't worry.
Okay. So I don't know. It seems a little bit hopeless, the way our politicians are acting, and they are not really putting enough strength and effort into creating wealth for the majority of the society, but is just benefiting companies and the private, like corporations and the private sector. And I think the private sector it got too much power into the infrastructure and the rules and regulations and opportunities, etc. And that's why I am focused on corporations, because I need to get their circular mindset into their corporate leaders. And that's why we use behavioral sciences. So everything is about perceptions. Everyone, it doesn't matter which level, which race, where are you born, everybody has fears, everybody has like incentives, everybody has perceptions, culture, habits, conducts that can change and can be addressed from a place of hope and empathy. And I don't know, I follow the values of water. So to be humble and to really just share. Everybody has something to share and something to learn. So I think we should just get out of the normal, like the normalize borders and like you are this and the labels that everybody has just because there are at the end social constructs, right?
Right.
So we are just people trying to be good, trying to have fun, trying to live well and eat well and, just exchange meaningful relationships. So as long as we see each other as people with just everybody has their own issues and...
And I've said this to my own kids that the average, you pass 100 people on the street each day, at least 99 of them are they just want to live their lives, provide for their families, and enjoy the time they have, on this earth. And, every now and then, you'll probably run into somebody who's not like that. But, here we are on this continent, and I think the thing that what I'm kind of getting from you is, and I agree with this, is as Mexico prospers, so does the United States, so does Canada, so does Panama, Costa Rica, Honduras, all down the American peninsula, all the way down into Chile, Argentina. We're all in this together, I guess, is
totally,
kind of the way.
Literally, just like that. And there's a lot of migration also from the U.S. to Mexico. That's crazy. Sure. Like a lot of people are moving from the U.S. to Mexico because that is the reason, like it's getting really radical and we need to harmonize visions and listen to each other. Otherwise, it's just going to get like worse and worse, I think.
Yeah, people just need to get along. Let's enjoy the time we're here. I got a couple other questions. We may have to divide this up into multiple episodes because this is just way too fascinating for me. You're about to leave us here in Huntsville. What is next for you? I can't imagine you're taking a break. You don't strike me as that kind of person. You probably have something.
No, I am working 12 hours a day, 5 hours in Huntsville Utilities, another 5 hours, 6 hours when I go back home. So we are right now in the middle of emerging. We're getting investment. Well, and after Huntsville, I'm going to Washington, D.C. for a pitch competition. We're going to compete with 280 leaders from the Americas into very inclusive, social-driven companies and startups. And then after, I am in the middle of emerging with my company, with a bigger organization, and we are the first organization in Mexico and Latin America, apart from Brazil, that are creating a organization for the responsibility of the producer. So just creating the channels, the opportunities to companies to do the right thing, not just to create better reputation, but to actually understand how can they make it good from the beginning and regenerative by design. And we have a lot of projects coming with big brands, with small entrepreneurs, with governments for regeneration, like plastic, waste, design, materials, biomaterials, all kinds of stuff. Like this is just getting started. I am really excited for what is to come.
I would imagine that there are other like-minded people out there who are excited by this topic too. This is actually a topic that we've discussed at my house with my kids about waste, and my wife got me hooked on going to thrift stores at one point, and I know that a lot of the ones.
I am number one fan. Oh, my house has like used furniture, and it's just like so unique. Why do we all want to be the same? All the stores like look the same. Everything is the same. I think it's just really good to have your own identity and to be able to express that through your clothes.
Oh yeah, we love to go to the thrift stores, and even if I don't get anything, sometimes it's just fun to go and look and see what other people are, and sometimes you find really cool stuff. Like I collect baseball caps that have different logos on them, and probably a big chunk of the ones I have found at thrift stores. Like, oh yeah, that's perfect. But if there are other people out there who are interested, not just in learning more about your company, but learning more about the circular economy and things that, you've opened my eyes to things that I didn't realize. Where can they go to learn more about this?
Well, our website is circulabmateria.com.
We'll put all these links in the comment section of the video.
My personal Instagram. I use a lot of Instagram just to let people know how can they do better as consumers and stuff, which is Aleesa, Alessa Aleesa Azaira, just all together. And there's we have the internet. We have St. Google.
Yeah.
So you can really just write down circular economy and you have a bunch of information about what that is, how can you get into it, how can you participate in the transition. So just self-learning. And specialization is for insects. So we all should know a little bit about everything.
Right.
It will just keep our brains awake.
I hope that we can have you either, hopefully as an in-person guest at some point, that you'll find yourself back in Huntsville. But if not, I definitely hope we can have have you as a guest on some future shows. There is one thing. We like to do little fun things on this show from time to time.
Cool,
and so
cool,
there's one thing I want to take advantage of before we wrap this up. I have actually, and this is total truth, I have been trying to learn Spanish for a couple of years now. And we were talking before the show, Spanish was my father's native language. He never taught it to any of us, but I've been using, I won't say the name of the app because I don't know if it'll get us in trouble, but there's an app that I use every morning. I do it twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. And then today, the day we're taping this, was the 812th consecutive day of me using this app to try and learn Spanish. And I can read it pretty well. And if I'm listening to something, I can, if it's coming at me real fast, sometimes I have to okay, I got to play this back slow. But the thing about this app is sometimes it will give a phrase that it wants me to translate, and I'll look at it and I'm when am I ever going to use this phrase? So I've got a collection here of some of the phrases that this app has tried to teach me. I want to run them by you. And tell me if I'm pronouncing them correctly, and if there is any opportunity, if I was in a Spanish-speaking country, to use this. Here's the first one. And I'm not making these up. These are actual phrases on this app that it's tried to get me to learn. ¿Dónde aprendieron francés esos caballos? Which I believe means, where did those horses learn French?
I don't think horses talk.
I don't know that there would ever be a time for me to use it. Maybe there is. I don't know. I've only been to Mexico one time. But
okay, I can tell you something.
Okay.
A fact. Mexican horses don't speak French.
Okay, well, I'm not going to study that section so hard now because it sounds like I'm not going to. Okay, now the second one. Mi gato no tiene barba, which, according to my cat, does not have a beard. Again,
sometimes cats have I
guess long whiskers. Maybe that's what it means. One very similar to that. Mi perro no usa pantalones. My dog does not wear pants. And my dog does not wear pants.
I'm going to tell you something. I've seen some stuff, mostly in LA, pets use pants. Mm-hmm.
Well, and now that you mention it, my wife, it was her birthday the other day, and the kids got her this shirt for her dog and sunglasses for the dog. So,
that could work. That could actually happen.
Okay. Here's another one. Ese hombre tiene tantas orejas. That man has so many ears.
Okay, definitely you won't use that unless you are in front of
someone with
an
more than
alien or something.
Yeah, more than 2 ears, I guess. and the final one, and this one, this would be pretty impressive actually. Mi cerdo pintó un cuadro ayer. My pig painted a picture yesterday. A lot of these with animals.
Well,
I saw an elephant that could paint pictures.
I've seen also a dog that was doing some painting with oleo, and it was pretty good. So you never know. You never know.
I mean, I guess there's a reason they teach you these phrases, but I don't know. Is there anything you'd like to add before? And thank you again for indulging me in that. I never get a chance to use the Spanish, but every day, twice a day, I do this, and I enjoy it. And hopefully, my goal is to be able to. I want to go buy a book in Spanish and be able to read it cover to cover. So that's my next goal.
I really hope you go at some point to Mexico, and then you will use it. And if you go, you're welcome.
I want to go back.
Reach me, and I'll show you around.
I would love to. It was like I say, my wife and I went on a cruise to Mexico, and it was along the eastern coast. We went to Cozumel, and a little town called Progreso. And, people were just friendly, and it was beautiful, and I would go back in a heartbeat. I didn't know anything about Mexico. I'd never been, but a beautiful country. And
Thank you.
I think everybody should go visit it. I think it's wonderful. But anyway, anything else you'd like to add before we?
Nothing, just I'm super grateful for being part of this, and I'm really proud that Huntsville Utilities is doing what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
There's always opportunity to improve and accelerate that transition, but I know the people have just such good intentions and like such big heart that I'm just super grateful to be able to spend some time with each of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thanks for being on our show. All right, so that was a great conversation. It was very interesting. We appreciate her taking the time to sit down and talk with us. And anything you want to add to it?
Well, I would love to hear your feedback, so feel free to comment. If you've got any questions, we can still get in touch with her to get answers. And don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can see all of our other videos.